Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's episode 176 of the Audible Farm podcast, and this episode is brought to you by Couchtown Coffee. Couchtown Coffee is roasted right here in Iowa. That's one of my favorite things about it. I was drinking Couchtown while I was doing this interview, actually. I love it. It's my favorite coffee. I drink it every morning. Good. If you guys want to check out Couchtown Coffee, all you got to do is go to couchtowncoffee.com. Find a coffee you like. Let them know how you want it roasted, and they'll ship it directly to your house. It's that easy. You know what's even cooler? They'll give you 20% off. Why? Because Couchtown Coffee is that cool. So tell them Audible Farm sent you. They'll give you 20% off. What's to miss out on? It's just give it a try. I guarantee you, you'll enjoy it. It's one of my favorite coffees I've ever had in my entire life. CouchtownCoffee.com. Thanks, Couchtown. This week, I'm sitting down with Jason Boggs, the other Jason Boggs. That's pretty funny to me because their interviews are really close to each other, and I've known about them both of them, for quite a while now. But it's really funny that I ended up doing them close to each other. But there's two different Jason Boggs, and we get into that a little bit in the interview, how there's two of them, and sometimes people think that one of them is the other one. But this Jason Boggs owns the venue Boggs Hull Avenue Tavern in Des Moines. He also plays in the band Resurrection Mary, which has some ties to my local music scene up in northern Iowa. So it's kind of funny that it's a small world out there. It's a small music world out there, but it's also very, very big. Jason's been in the scene for 20 plus years, it seems like, maybe more. We talk about some of that in here. We talk about, I think one of my favorite parts about this episode is he's got the perspective of both a bar owner and a musician. So he's kind of seen it all. He kind of knows what it's like to be a promoter and things like that. We talk about different styles of promotion and how it's changed over the years. And upcoming shows. He's got a couple upcoming shows. One of them is his birthday bash at the Hull. It's always a great show. But another one, he is opening up for Blacktop Mojo in Iowa City at the Wildwood. So that's going to be a good show as well. We talk about those in the upcoming podcast as well. So strap on this episode. It's one of my favorites. I love sitting down talking with Jason Boggs. He's such a fun guy. I've played at his venue dozens and dozens of times. I've seen bands play there from across the U.S., tons of different local bands across Iowa. It's just such a fun place to go see shows. So it's got that small bar feel, but it still has that club kind of feel because it's got a stage and everything. So check it out. This episode's really fun. It's episode 176 with Jason Boggs of Resurrection Mary and Boggs Hull Avenue Tavern.
It's the Audible Farm Podcast with your host, Peter Stockdale.
Today I'm sitting down with Jason Boggs, and I sat down recently with a different Jason Boggs. Did you listen to that episode, or did you see that one online when it popped up?
Well, yeah, but what's funny is, like, I know he probably gets as tired of being mistaken for me as I do of him. So
that's hilarious. Because I was even telling someone today I was going to interview Jason, and they were like, "Oh, the guy with all those guitar amps," and I was like, "No, different guy." Like,
but that's the funny thing, because we're both gear junkies.
Mm-hmm.
Both big guitar collectors. But what I always tell people when they say Jason Boggs, I'm like, no, I'm the one that sells you alcohol. He'll sell you insurance.
Yes. So for those that don't know, good
thing that we both play two genres of music too.
Yeah, it's two completely different genres. And for those that don't know, this is the Jason Boggs that owns Boggs Hull Avenue Tavern. So that's why it's Boggs Hull Avenue Tavern. It's your Hull Avenue Tavern, and it's the oldest bar in Des Moines. Is that a real thing?
Yeah, countywide, actually, Polk County.
Oh, really? Oldest one in Polk County. That's crazy. But yeah, with Three Finger Betty, I've played down at your bar a zillion times. Well, it seems like a zillion times. Like, I don't know, probably 4 dozen times in the last 5 years. So it's been one of those places that's like a home away from home for me. It's kind of where I cut my teeth, even though people don't really know that. So you do also play in a band, though. So do you want to talk band stuff first, or do you want to talk venue stuff first?
Doesn't matter. They both kind of overlap after a while, because once I took over the whole, which is funny because once I started running the whole avenue, it seems like I started playing less gigs in the beginning, just kind of more concentrated on running the bar. And the bandmates I had at that time just, now I don't want to say that they just weren't dedicated to playing as often, but, everyone just kind of had their own separate lives. So a few years I ran the whole, my band didn't get to play as often as I really thought. People probably thought, oh, Jason's got this bar and he's going to play all the cool shows. Man, I had to pass up on a lot of the cool shows because my bandmates at the time just couldn't take a lot of stuff. But it allowed me just to kind of concentrate on booking more of my friends' bands and keeping the music scene kind of chugging along there for the first 2 or 3 years I had the bar.
When did you take over the bar?
I signed my lease on December 7th, 2014, and we opened in March 3rd of 2015. So next month, well, we're only about 4 weeks.
Oh man, we must have had a little glitch there. I lost some of your audio. Oh no, now I've lost all of your audio. Where did it go? Oh wait, now I get little bits of it. That's crazy. Are you connected to Wi-Fi or not?
Yep.
Huh.
Yep.
Okay, now I can hear you just fine. But yeah, the last bit I got was you pretty much like first started opening the bar in 2015. Was that right?
March 3rd, 2015 is when we officially opened. So we're going on 7 years.
7 years. That's pretty awesome. So I think my first show that I played there was in 2017. So not terribly long after you started taking over the place.
Couple years, yeah. Now I had actually started booking shows there in 2004.
Okay.
I was working at House of Bricks at the time. I was a head bartender, and I left the bar, and the owner of the bar, the Whole Avenue at the time, was booking mostly cover bands. This was in the early 2000s, and she wanted to try something different, so I started bringing in hard rock and metal bands that wrote and performed original music, and it was a success there. So we started doing more and more of those shows, and I kind of am responsible for that early 2000s kind of getting the metal and some of the punk and some of the original music kind of branching out from the bars like House of Bricks and Harry Mary's kind of into your blue collar neighborhood bars. Gave a lot of bands an opportunity to get up there on stage and play, and it worked. It helped the scene grow, because we need more than 2 venues to play at in Des Moines. That was back at the time. There was, if you wrote and performed original music, you had House of Bricks or you had Harry Mary's, and that was really about it.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Whole Avenue was back in 2004. I kind of made that another venue. It was a good in between the two the clubs in town. So it kind of brought just more bands out to give them exposure.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a thing to think about, because like when bands get a hold of me, they're like, "Where do you play at in Des Moines?" I can only think of like maybe 5 places, and like one of them's closed because that's vaudeville, So that place isn't even open anymore. And there are a lot of places that allow for different styles of music now in Des Moines, but it still feels like that original hard rock kind of stuff is there's not a ton of places that are doing that, on a frequent basis. So it is still kind of weird to try to fit in there, but it's no different than any small town though. Like you go into a small town bar, like you want a metal band, and they're like, I don't know,
No, Alabama here, you got it's
yeah, it's got to be Sweet Home Alabama, totally, So like,
I know some of those guys like down in southern Iowa and like down in Ottumwa, and they've got like a pretty thriving hard rock scene down there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It happened. Hats off to those guys working hard down in southern Iowa. They, there's my dad played in a band back in the 70s, and he always told me that some of the best venues he ever played in Iowa, the more south they'd go, the people would show up and just rock and have a good time.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, as far as like I play in a, what I would call kind of a country-ish cover band, with a guy, Jesse Wilson. So I play with him a lot, and that's where I like play the T60. I showed you that one time at a show, but like, yeah, like I have noticed that when you go farther south, it seems like they pick up on it quite a bit, and it's different around different areas, because I know that like Fort Dodge is starting to get like a really big scene for music once again, and there's like 6 or 7 venues in Little Fort Dodge that are like, yeah, bring in your bands and we'll play here. It's pretty wild, you know. So do you think that like music in general, there's more like push for it now because people are finally out and about and they're ready to go do stuff and they want something to happen, or what do you think is causing this resurgence in music?
Well, I'm as a bar owner, I'm still not seeing people coming back out like they should be. I'm definitely feeling the last 2 years have just been a financial, uh, you know, treachery because of COVID, and I understand why. People want to be safe, but people aren't coming out, but they are. Some of the shows are drawing people out. We played a show a couple weeks ago with the band out of Rockford, Illinois. They drove all the way from Rockford after we had that storm that put 14 inches of snow on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys are called Distology. They're out of Rockford, Illinois, and these guys just rock. I mean, they're incredible. They drove all the way from Rockford, and they told them, like, hey, man, we like playing Des Moines. This is it. We love coming here and playing. I mean, that's dedication. So we must have something going on in Des Moines. There's a little ripple right now.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. Do you think that some of the appeal of Des Moines is the fact that Slipknot came out of Des Moines, so some people are kind of just like, I want to play in that town that Slipknot came out of?
I think so. I remember the music scene back in the late 90s, and everybody's band, it was the new metal era, and everyone sounded like new metal, and everybody wanted to be the next Slipknot. And there's, always, oh, this is the next band that's going to get big. This 35-inch Mutter is going to be the next big band. No, it's going to be, Mind Splice. No, it's going to be this band. And, I do think that Slipknot has definitely put Des Moines, Iowa on the map. But on the other hand, it's kind of unfortunate because we didn't become like the next Seattle. There was only one band catapulted out of here. I think for the music scene to be, Des Moines' next up and coming thing, we need like 10 bands coming out of here. And the talent is here. The talent is in Des Moines. It's not just in the rock community. I mean, there's blues, rock, country, punk. I mean, this city is brewing with talent, but I don't know if we're just the next rock that needs to be, turned over or something. I don't know what it is about Des Moines. There's something here that's holding us back. Something cosmic, maybe. Maybe it's cosmic.
It could be what it is. Maybe everyone's like, Des Moines, that's in, Idaho, right? And they all go to Idaho instead, and they're
But I remember reading this interview with one of the guys in Slipknot. It's probably Corey Taylor. And he said, hey, here's the thing about growing up in Des Moines, Iowa. There's nothing to do. So you sit around and you play music. And I think there's a lot of truth to that because, I think about you being a creative person. You play guitar, you read comic books, you kind of get lost in your own world because we don't live in California. We don't surf. We're not all doing things out. We don't have like those kind of opportunities that people have on the coast. What do you do in Des Moines, man? You sit around your house. You're in your house for 3/4 of the year. It seems it's either too hot to go outside or it's too cold. So we sit around, we create. I think there's a creative element in the Midwest, even in Iowa in general. You go back and you look at most of your musicians, your actors, your entertainers. Everyone living in California doing all this stuff. They're all from the Midwest.
Yeah, that's true.
People leave the Midwest and they go to the sunny places, but I think creativity is kind of born out of boredom and frustration.
Yeah,
and I think that's what about living here in the Midwest.
Oh, totally. Because I mean, like, it's kind of mind blowing how many like even artists there are in the Midwest, like in Iowa or Des Moines or et cetera, or like comedians. There's starting to be a lot more comedians in Iowa than there ever was, and it's like this is wild. And there's now like comedian circuits that can go to like different places that are like open mic nights for comedy. It's like, this is pretty wild. It's kind of cool that that's starting to be a thing, too. So, yeah, I've always like kind of thought the Des Moines. Oh shoot, sorry, what was that?
I was going to say social media is probably helping too. I mean, now, you could theoretically be a guy on YouTube making a video down in your basement, Des Moines, Iowa. You're just as valid as someone in Las Vegas or even Altamira, Spain. I mean, the internet's just kind of connected everyone.
That is true. Because I mean, like, nowadays you can just be like, here's our Bandcamp page, and they'll check it out and be like, this looks well produced. I'm going to hire you guys. And it's like, all right, there you go. Like, that's what it is, So it does work, but that's also the double-edged sword of like, you kind of almost need social media at that point too. Like, if I could just have a website and everyone would go to it, that'd be fine with me. But now you got to update like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and make stories and events and And it's just a lot of work, a lot of time on social media that I don't really want to spend on there, I guess. But that's another thing. Like, how do you go about promoting shows? Because you're literally just a bar in Des Moines that is amongst many other bars. You're kind of like out of the way. You're not downtown, but you're not terribly far away from it. But how do you promote shows? Because I feel like that's a thing that doesn't happen anymore. Like
Well,
you can't put flyers up and things like that on cars or wherever.
well, and one thing that I believe is, I believe in physical flyers. I believe in putting posters up. And I like to think I make some really cool posters. I hang them up all around town. We do the best we can to do stuff like that. But what kind of bothers me sometimes is I think the younger bands who weren't around back in the late 90s or the 2000s, they don't get it. And I think they rely too much on social media. Like, hey, we'll make an event. We'll put it out. It's more than that. If 50 people say they're coming, you have to assume 10% are.
Yep.
Remember the old days where, we would go out and we would flyer a parking lot. If Rob Zombie was playing, we figure, well, maybe some of these people are going to like our music. We put 800 flyers on cars. And if we got 10 people, we won.
Mm-hmm.
But, when went out to your car after a show, or even going to going to see a band down at Gaslamp, when's the last time you got in your car and see a flyer for someone playing at Lefties?
That's true.
That used to be a common thing. Back in 2006, 2003, 2000, 1999, et cetera, back in those days, if you went to a show, when you left that night, there was 3 flyers for concerts, within the next 2 or 3 weeks. That's how bands promoted back then. And I don't know if maybe people don't know how to do that anymore, or if they're apathetic or not, but that's how we used to promote back then. I just, Facebook is a great tool, but I can't say that it's reliable. You really don't know what the return is when you put an event on Facebook. You want your friends and your family to come, but man, you put a flyer on someone's car, you put something physical in their hand, they're looking, oh, well, what's this? Oh, at least they saw it and they see your name. And I just think that there needs to be more kind of street team promotions like in the old days, because it was effective. I really think it was.
Yeah. I mean, I agree wholeheartedly, because I feel like, and this is going to sound really dumb, but like with the podcast, I was always like, I'm going to always have stickers, and I'm going to have as many with me as I can. And I'm going to give them out because somebody's going to put a sticker on something, and then someone else is going to see it, and it's like free promotions. So I always said no business cards, it's stickers. And it's funny because you'll give them to people and you'll see them like stuck to, like I saw one on a light pole today in downtown Fort Dodge, and I was like, that is wild. Like, and I didn't even stick it there. So it's like, that's crazy, And so people are obviously walking past that thing and seeing it. So it's not too far off from, what you're kind of explaining, where it's just like, if you put something in their hands or in their line of sight where they have to touch it, and even if they just throw it away, they still looked at it. But like on Facebook, you make an event and it's like 80.
3 Eddie, what?
Yeah.
But they at least, your name was in their head for a couple seconds.
Yeah, exactly. And on Facebook, if they don't follow you or have any friends that follow you, they'll never see your event. Like, never, ever see your event. And even if they follow you and stuff, it's like, how many friends do you have? Do I have? Does everyone else in the band have, for all these different bands that are playing at your birthday show, and for only X amount of people to have seen it and responded? It's like, that's kind of wild that only that many people have seen it and responded to it, when you think about how many friends we probably all have. So, I don't know. It's that Facebook algorithm's not friendly,
Suppose it's the same problem everywhere from Des Moines to Seattle to Brainerd, Minnesota. I mean, all these bands, we want people to come to our shows. How do you get people out? I mean, I think in 2022, it's more difficult to get someone to come out of the house, get in their car, drive to a venue, be entertained by you than it was 20 years ago. Because let's just face it. I mean, we can sit at home, be entertained by anything now.
That's true.
We've got music, we got everything at our fingertips. I mean, I'd like to think that people still want to go out and experience live music, because it is an experience. You can sit and listen to a CD any day. That's why people want to go to concerts. You want to have the experience.
That's true.
How are we going to get these people to come to hear our shows? That's always that's the biggest pitch. And I suppose as and being creative, so we're all in bands. We're doing our bands. You're doing Betty, and I'm doing Mary. And but we're creative people, but now we have to be business people at the same time too. We have to have that simultaneous, like, we got to be business and commerce. Now, how do we promote our art? You know, I think that's the toughest goal.
Yeah.
Being a musician, you hear your art when people hear your music, you know?
Well, yeah, I remember hearing on a podcast recently, I was listening to a comedy podcast, and this guy was like, I remember when I was young and I was like, I love comedy, I'm just not good at the networking. And this senior comedian kind of looked at me and said, what, that's stupid. You got to be good at networking. So just get good at networking. And it's like, that's unfortunate as it is. That's kind of part of the battle with playing music. You can't just sit there and play music and walk away and not talk to anyone in the scene or anybody, you know, because then people are just going to be like, who's that? I don't know. I forgot his name already. He's never around. I never remember him. So you end up with something like that, you know? But I mean, it's just kind of a weird thing, because I never really considered myself too social of a person, and here I am with a podcast, because I was like, well, this is kind of a way to kind of maybe hopefully get some people involved in the scene, you know. And I saw a lot of the people in the northern Iowa area really responding to it, so I've interviewed a lot of them, but I don't shy away from the Des Moines people too, because like I said, I've spent 5 years now playing down in Des Moines, so it does have my heart, that's for sure. But I remember going to shows down there. What year is it? It's 2022 now. Oh man, it's like 16 years ago. I remember going to shows down there and stuff, and like right after I graduated high school and whatnot. So I'd be like cruising around down there going to see shows. And it's like you said, there was a lot of super, super, very heavy bands. And like my buddies were in Dark Mirror, so they played like thrash metal. And so I always wanted to go see their shows. But there was a lot of bands that used prop and makeup and all sorts of other crazy things out there. And I don't see too much of that going on anymore. It's just a bunch of people up there. They play their music and go away.
Sure. I think also, too, I remember the scene, you know, 2005. Resurrection Mary started playing around 2006. And it was a little more competitive back then. You had some bands that I always call them, I'm not going to kind of name names because I'm not saying anything derogatory. But I think that there definitely was a little bit more of a competitive part of the scene back then. Some bands wouldn't play shows with other bands. You know, it was just I think of the scene was a little more cliquey. Mm-hmm. And I think there's some people who would probably disagree and say, oh, no, Jason, the scene back in 05 was the best. I'm like, well, we all have our opinions on that. I remember a certain band, not going to name names, would go out and flyer. We flyered Harry Mary's, we flyered The Hole, we would flyer House of Bricks. This certain band was playing Shooter's Hideaway, which was a pool hall over on 63rd and University. And they were the big band in Des Moines at that time. Well, we flyered their parking lot. And, you know, you want to go put a flyer for your show, where do you go? You go to places that are having shows because that's the crowds can come here. The guitar player in this band was insulted when he got to his car and found a flyer stuck on his windshield wiper that said Resurrection Mary, Slopsicle, which is one of the greatest Des Moines bands ever, and still a band called Parallax, and it was first show at The Hole. He took it personally, and he went on to this, you know, internet, and he made a big statement like, I think that's low class, someone flyering the cars in the parking lot. And I'm like, whoa, bro, we did that everywhere. Don't think we singled your band out. That's what bands do, you know. But once again, that was just kind of a sample of the everyone wants to be the next big band, and that was very 2005 Des Moines. And you know what? I think we've grown past that. I think we're more of a family now. I really do.
I was going to say, I remember a story very similar to that happening in the pro wrestling scene where, like, sometimes WWE comes to town, so the smaller promotions will go there and they'll flyer people on the way out, you know? But then they'll get mad because somebody, like, I was going to flyer this door, like, we're flyer, and it's like, well, you can't flyer here or whatever, you know? So, like, there was a little bit of a huffle, you know, about that. But after a while, it died down, and everyone's like, yeah, that's stupid to get mad about that.
The thing, too, this is Des Moines, Iowa. This isn't Los Angeles.
It's true.
It's not the Sunset Strip in 1984. We're all playing to the same people.
That's true.
And so that's just, I mean, the scene was bigger back then, but it was just a little bit more competitive. You had about 2 or 3 bands. You know, they were very limited about who they wanted to play with, where they wanted to play. And, you know, all it did at the end was nothing. It accomplished nothing, you know, other than just being divisive. Yeah. And I think happens everywhere, and I'm not bad mouthing Des Moines because I've been part of the scene for 25 years, but geez, I'm so glad to see that the scene is growing beyond that. And I think if that's one thing that is good about Des Moines right now, I think there's younger people who are part of the scene who don't look at, themselves as like, oh, I'm the next big thing. No, I think people are a little cooler now. That's one thing I got to give to the younger generation. People 10, 15 years younger than me, man, they're way more cooler. They just are. They're hung up on ego. I just don't think they have that as big of an ego trip as my generation did.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean there's definitely some of that, but at the same time I also feel that like maybe it's just like the life situation they're involved in. So it's like, well, they've already had life beat them down and they know that like, they don't have the dream of being like a king in like their kingdom or whatever. So they're just like, yeah, whatever. I'm going out there and playing music, and when I'm done, I'm going to cheer for everyone else. I'm going to walk away and high five people, and it's going to call it a night, And some people want to. What's that?
The scene needs more of that too. Hey, we're staying for all the bands. We're going to listen for everyone. Our fans are here for everyone.
Yeah, like I love that concept because it's something I've been preaching to people where it's like, even if you don't like the music, you don't have to express the fact that you don't like it in front of their face, like while they're playing, like just sit there and enjoy it while it's happening and move on with your life. Like I've been to too many shows where I've overheard people like saying horrible things about bands, and I mean, that's also the downside of going to hundreds of shows where it's just like, there's always gonna be that one guy in the crowd that's just like, play Freebird or like whatever, or like, these guys are great, but this guy in this band is horrible. And it's like, why would you say that? Like, why are you going to key in on that? So I do notice that like a lot of the younger people I play with just love going up there and playing. And that's the only thing on their mind, and, hats off to them. Because for a long time, I didn't have that mindset. I was kind of like you were describing. I was kind of just like, I play guitar, I am the man. But then when I finally started actually like learning and going out to jam nights and hanging out with other people, I was like, oh, if there was a totem pole, I would be so close to the bottom. It's not even funny. And then it's like, oh, I got humbled. So then I started to like go out and, try my craft out a little bit more. And that's one of my favorite things about going down to Des Moines is there's so many different bands down there playing so much different stuff. Like I play a lot in the punk scene. I'm using like air quotes for people not, watching the Patreon video, but like the punk scene down there is so wide. It's like anything could be punk, and Betty's kind of punk, but we're kind of rock and we're kind of metal,
There's a guitar current running through Betty, I think.
Yeah. I mean,
I can hear a surf. I can just hear it. I can hear I like it.
Yeah, so it's like, but that's the other thing is like there's so many bands bridging so many different genres. I mean, there are some bands that you could kind of like pigeonhole where like these guys kind of sound like this, and that's it. But like that's kind of the fun thing though is I've had the opportunity to play with all sorts of different bands, from like jammy style bands to old punk bands to new punk bands to punk bands with instruments, like horns and stuff like that. So it's a very open and welcoming scene, that's for sure. I guess I just wish I had the availability to see more of it because you and I were talking before the podcast, like, the scene better down there than I do because you've A, been in it longer, and B, you live down there and I don't live down there. So I only get to go down there and see bands when I play with them, or right, on the off chance I come see a show after I have like a band rehearsal on a weekend, so it doesn't always happen, but excuse me. You were talking about, was it House of Bricks earlier? And those were some of my earliest memories, was going to shows at the House of Bricks, when I was like right at the edge of like out of high school. And I mean, I'd get in my car and drive 2 hours after school, or like after I got off work, right after I graduated, and be like, all right, I'm going down to a show in Des Moines. It felt so cool to go down there and watch shows. And it was so sad when that place finally closed. And it's like, man, you think about how many shows I've seen there, and I never got the opportunity to play there. That's like something that's unfortunate to me, from like way back in my history. That's like, it doesn't exist. I can't do it.
You would have loved the stage. It was a great stage to play on, though. Probably one of the best stages in town. I really liked playing there. Now the old House of Bricks was on Merle Hay Road in Douglas.
Okay.
And that was the first Bricks. It used to be called Connie's, and JC and Nancy bought it and they renamed it to House of Bricks. Now that was the one where I was the head bartender out at. Now I worked there in 02 and 03, But man, we had a lot of, great bands come through there. And once again, they booked a very diverse set of music out there. We had a lot of punk bands come through. There's this punk band that came through, and I guess they're kind of legendary, and they're from Detroit, and they're called the Trash Brats. And these guys were really cool. Yeah, they had vinyl for sale, and House of Bricks. They book all these interesting things. There's the guitar player from a band called Focus. His name is Jan Ackerman. Have you ever heard that song? It's called Hocus Pocus by Focus. It starts out with yodeling.
No.
And it goes into this dun 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 dun, just this beat. Well, Jan Ackerman, he was playing the guitar. He came through. He's he's Dutch or something. And he comes up with acoustic guitar one night and plays. It was an interesting place. One night I was working at House of Bricks, and we had a jam on Wednesdays called the Farmer Tan Funk Band. And some of these guys were like professors at Drake. They're music professors. One night there was a metal band called what were they called? Agent Orange. And they were just in town. They're on tour, and they just wanted to come in and play. So I let them come out. I'm like, okay, they came up with shot pool, and
that's cool.
We just have all these just interesting people pop in. And that's weird about Des Moines is a lot of people don't realize people pass through Des Moines all the time. All the time. 80-35 people come right through here, and they want to play. At the Hull Avenue this summer, Mark Rizzo, who played in Soulfly and Il Nino, and a record label hit me up out of Illinois and said, "Hey, can Mark Rizzo come and play?" And I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm a small venue. I seat 74 people." They're like, "No, we can Mark come and play?" Okay, Mark Rizzo comes in there and plays. Man, Mark Rizzo, he's my friend now. He's my friend on Facebook. We talk all the time. He plays in Il Nino. I mean, that's a pretty big band. Yeah. He came to play the Tavern one night on a Monday. He popped in.
That's cool.
Yeah, so people do pass through here, and those are like, "Well, can I come and play?" And I'm like, "Well, I can't give you much money,
Yeah.
But they want to play. They want to make fans. They sell T-shirts. Mm-hmm. People come in, and they're not making a ton of money at the door, but they're selling $500 worth of merchandise.
Yeah, yeah. And that is another testament to bands. Like, if you want to go out, and I get it, everyone's objective with a band is different, but if you want to go out there and try and like put your name on the map, like you kind of have to have merch. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. If you have
Eric Brown will tell you all day long, "Hey man, if you don't have your merch table set up at Lefties, you ain't doing it right."
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's another thing. Like if you have T-shirts, somebody's gonna wear that, and they're a walking billboard for you now. And it's like stickers, same deal. I mean, you can go up and down the line with just about anything, and then you gotta, how do you feel about CDs? Are CDs a thing? Do you use those anymore, or is it more like, if I see someone has a vinyl, I'm cool with that?
So of course I have CDs. I have CDs and vinyl and things. I mean, but I don't know. I guess you'd have to ask someone younger than me, because I definitely plan on we're going to put on an EP probably more towards the end of this summer. But I'm going to do a CD release. I mean, I'm going to put it on that document. Do people still buy those? Man, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
have a piece.
Yeah, like we bought CDs for Three Finger Betty. I don't know if we got you one or not, but I can't remember. We had to order 200 at a whack in order to get like a decent deal, and it was like, this is a lot of CDs. So, I went on like a thing where it's just like any radio station in Iowa that plays anything remotely close to what we have, or any radio station that has like a local music whatever show. I just sent CDs out to them all the DJs. It was just like, here you go, check it out. So that could be a good promotional tool maybe too. But
your band plays, are people buying CDs or are they buying vinyl off of you?
It's weird. I think we're selling more vinyl.
Wow, that's awesome though. That's really cool.
Yeah, it is a weird vinyl too because it's a 7-inch, and that's not really like a super common thing, So I think you have to play it at 45 RPMs, but it's like a long 45 is what it is.
Yeah, I love vinyl. But I'm, like I said, man, I was born in 1975, so I'm kind of that generation. I remember still buying records when I was a kid, and I've always, I have a great turntable. I have the best.
Yeah.
So I listen to vinyl. I have a jukebox in my house. It's full of 45s.
That's cool. That's super cool.
I Skype it over and then show you my jukebox. It's really sweet.
Oh, that's sweet. That's super sweet. Oh man. Yeah, I mean that's another thing that's cool is like as involved as I am in the music scene, as many people as I know and as many shows as I've been to and things like that, I always sit there and look at people like you. It's like, man, you've been in the scene longer. You've seen a bazillion more shows. You know a million more bands. You've watched it transform time and time again. And I mean, like I've been in it long enough to watch it like accordion. Sometimes, like you were talking about earlier, it kind of has like a lull where it's like, man, nothing's happening. Nobody's playing shows. There aren't really any bands out that are grinding on a month to month or week to week basis. And then all of a sudden, it's just like there's a lot of people, a lot of bands. Everybody's playing shows all the time. So, yeah, I guess I kind of forgot where I was going with that, but like, that's like the thing I think about with people like you is like, you have seen pretty much everything to the point where like, I mean, we were talking earlier how Boggs has a lot of like metal and punk and rock and things like that, but you do a blues jam on Sundays too, still, don't you?
Yep, 7:00 tonight. I mean, every Sunday we do, we come over an open jam now. The people that do it now, they infuse more rock, Southern rock in it. And it's, anyone can get up and play really any genre you want, but we still have a lot of the older cats that come in and play the blues. Mm-hmm. So I've been keeping every Sunday, 52 Sundays a year, man. We're doing that open jam at the Hole, and gives people a chance to get up there and express themselves. People who don't play in bands, this is kind of their gig. Mm-hmm. It gives everyone a chance to get up there and just get off musically, I guess.
Yeah, I've actually been to a few of those blues jams. Who was the guy that hosted those for like ever? What was his name?
Well, the guy that hosts him at the Hole, he passed away. His name was Kim Mason.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he was a nice guy. He was super cool.
And he was another one of those guys who's a guitar collector. He had like 37 guitars, and he'd buy these guitars, he'd take them apart, he'd swap things out, and he'd cobble stuff together. But Kim was a neat guy. He truly loved guitar. He loved music. He just loved that stuff. He lived it. He breathed it. That's what he made him happy.
Yeah. I was sad to hear he passed away. Never got to play with him or whatever. But I saw him jam a bunch up there. I think I went to like 3 jams while he was still hosting it, and I haven't been to one since he passed away. But
he was a really gracious host.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. I remember the one of them I was there, and it was. The jam just kept going and going and going. And I was like, does it usually go this late? And someone was like, yeah, sometimes. It depends on who's here or whatever. And it just kept going later and later. And like one of my favorite things, like this guy comes in and he had just like flip-flops and he was like all grubby. He probably just got off of work and he had like just like a white t-shirt and some shorts on. And he came in with just like a guitar and he was holding it all like weird, like he was almost dragging it behind him. But he went up there and he played and he just destroyed. Didn't have a pick. Was just, like I said, he was just like all dirty. He probably just got off of work and he went up there and shredded. And I was like, that's cool. That's like the stuff I like to see.
It's, like I said, it's amazing of the people who live in our community in Fort Dodge and Des Moines, all over. There are people out there who are unsigned, unnoticed guitar gods. Mm-hmm. And you'll never, because like I said, they probably just got off work building tires, and these guys can play the guitar better than anyone you'd ever hear on the radio. And you're like, my God, who is out there in our community with this much talent? They're out there. These people are out there.
Yeah. I mean, I'll definitely say that. So like I play like in that cover band, I play with a kid and he's 17 years old and he plays bass, but he's like Primus level crazy good. Like just weirdo good. And it's like, okay, that's cool. There's a crazy good bassist in our town. Well, I was at a jam earlier today. I went to one, it was just like in the afternoon. And this other kid gets up there and he's got a 6-string Kiesel headless bass. And I'm like, oh, this guy's going to be good. And sure enough, he just shreds a bunch on the bass. And I'm like, where are you guys coming from? Like, I didn't know you existed. And it almost seems like some of those people are hiding. Like, they don't want to be in bands, And
some of them may not be able to, some of them may not have the personalities. You're in a band, I'm in a band. It takes a dynamic. It takes a certain person to be in a band and get along with other people and do shows and be on time. It takes a lot of effort to do this. I mean, my God, that's why bands always break up, because people end up hating each other or musical direction, but my God, to be in a band and stick it out, it takes a lot of patience and understanding.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because like it's almost like you're at a part-time job that you there's no boss, and it's you and three other people, and you have to get along, and you kind of have to come to a consensus. Like, are we playing this show? Is everybody free this day? Can we be at this place at this time for a rehearsal? And practice your parts, please. And then you show up, and it's like, you obviously haven't been practicing. And like, how do you bridge all those gaps? And like, how do you talk? Like, do you talk to people nicely? Because I've been in just enough bands that where I've seen every dynamic. Where like Three Finger Betty's the easiest. Like, nobody cares. Just go up there, play a bunch, shred, rock out, leave. Like, everybody's cool. Like rock and roll. But I've also been in other bands where it's like, this is a little bit more difficult than Three Finger Betty, and you got to kind of like figure out where your place is and how to kind of get along with some people, And some of that comes down to like how bad do you want it too, because it's some people just don't want to put up with that ever, or some people are like, I like playing music, but I'll play in my basement if it comes down to like
Right.
X, Y, and Z. So it's not an easy dynamic to have, that's for sure.
And I think and the fans, people always say to me, oh, Jason, it's so cool. I wish I could be in a band. And I'm like, well, just do it. You want to do it? Just do it.
Yeah.
Do it. And maybe do 2 shows and you break up and you never play again, but you're in a band. You can always look back and say, hey, give it a try. I did it. But man, to be in a band and keep a band going forever, and it takes dedication, it takes personality. I've been through a lot of different members in Resurrection Mary. People get married. They lose their desire sometimes, and people quit, they come and they go. But the thing is, if you love music, you just got to keep it going. You just got to keep finding different people.
Yeah.
People you get along with.
Yeah, and that's where I used to just be like, some of these people seem so wishy-washy where they're like, I play with this band and now I play with that band, or now I have I play this genre and now I play that. And now I look at it and I'm like, some of these people are just trying to find their place or trying to stay entertained by this. And that's like, I always just have to tell myself, everyone's trying their best to get what they want out of music, and you just have to find people that are semi like-minded. I understand people that change genres and play different styles and stuff like that, because I've played a handful of different genres with different bands on a very frequent basis over the last 4 or 5 years. So it's like, I get it. It's a nice pace change to play in a cover band than it is to play in like a progressive metal band. It's a nice pace change to play with Three Finger Betty than it is to play folk music or whatever. But coming back to that jam night, man, I absolutely love jam nights. You never know what's going to happen. You kind of just have to get along with people on the fly and see what's going to happen. And sometimes it's nerve wracking, but usually it turns out pretty good.
It can be frustrating. I have to admit, I don't enjoy playing in open jams myself, because when I do, I feel like if someone doesn't know the music that I want to play, it just falls apart on stage.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, does anyone know how to play Baby Please Don't Go? No, yeah. I don't know how to play that. Really? Okay, well, how about this? Or I'll throw out a Zeppelin song. No one knows how to do it. And if the bass player doesn't know how you're doing on these specific chord changes, doesn't matter.
Yep.
The song falls flat. So one thing about open jams is, I think, you go to open jams, you kind of listen, you kind of have to treat it like a cover band where like, okay, these are the songs that they play every week. These are the set of songs they play. I'm going to go home and learn the set of songs they play. So when I jump up there, when they play, Statesboro Blues by the Allman Brothers, hey, I came prepared. I know that song. Mm-hmm. I can jump in there. I can on bass if I have to. That's kind of the key, I think, to going to the open jams. Got to kind of scout it out, kind of see what they're doing.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of people go to. Oh, sorry. What was that?
You say that's kind of how it is in Des Moines. The open jams are kind of run that way. There's a specific. They're open jams. They're open to getting you up on stage, but there's still a criteria. There's still a set list that they're kind of doing.
Yeah, I definitely understand that, because like one of the open jams I go to, it's like 50-50 singer-songwriter and then play other songs. So you kind of almost have to know these singer-songwriter songs. So you have to sit there for maybe a week or two to figure out how they go, or what's supposed to be going on in different spots, or where you can fit in if you're going to play leads with them, etc. But some of that's also the fun of it, where like the jam I went to today, it was just like I didn't know almost any of the songs. So it's one of those things where it's like, I'm going to use, you have to like, you find different strengths where it's like, I can play chords and just hide in the background and just play like little bitty rhythm parts, and stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. It's It is what it is. I don't know. Jam nights, they definitely give me a different opportunity other than Three Finger Betty, which is like running downhill fast music, you know?
Right. Oh, I like the spontaneity, though, of being able to get up there on a jam and kind of improvising and, getting to kind of solo or come up with something kind of different. That's kind of cool, I guess. If the people you're jamming with are kind of conducive to that, that's always the fun part of it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you were talking Resurrection Mary earlier, and I'm talking jam nights, and I see this guy a lot at jam nights, Jeremy Ober. You actually know Jeremy Ober.
Jeremy Ober well. So I met Jeremy years ago, probably around 2007. He was playing in Brutal Republic, which I believe he still has going.
Yep.
And Jeremy, we were doing shows with Jeremy, and we got rid of our lead singer back in 2006, and we were looking for lead singers. And Jeremy Ober, who was living in Des Moines at that time, he was living here. He had a girlfriend who I think lived in Ankeny, so he was kind of in the Des Moines area at that time. He came up and approached us after a show and said, "Heard you guys need a singer." I'm like, "Yeah, we do." And he goes, Can I fill in? Can I help?" And we all looked at each other like, "Well, okay." Mm-hmm. So Jeremy opened Resurrection Mary for, I'd say, about a year and a half possibly. Jeremy Ober fronted Resurrection Mary, and we do one of our songs that we do, probably one of our most popular songs. We've got it on 3 different compilation CDs. It's called a song called "Here Comes the West," and Jeremy actually wrote the lyrics to that song. And I wrote the music, but Jeremy wrote those lyrics, and I never changed them because I don't think I could write anything better than what Jeremy wrote for that. So those lyrics were written by Jeremy Ober. "Here Comes the West."
Oh, nice. That's super cool.
Resurrection Mary songs, very, a fast 2.5 minute punk kind of driving rock song, punk metal. Jeremy Ober wrote these songs, and they're very, esoteric, kind of about like, flesh versus machine. I mean, he wrote these lyrics on an inefficient machine to replace, inefficient flesh, nothing more than pawns in a game of chess. The grip it has on control grows less and less. Look out, it's time. Here comes the West. I suppose the West being a metaphor for, hey, here comes the machinery, here comes technology, here comes progress. Jeremy wrote those words. It's very powerful. Jeremy Ober is probably one of the best guitar players too that I've seen perform. Jeremy is a unique talent. Jeremy Ober's got it going on, man. Jeremy really, about a lot of people I know, Jeremy really should be catapulted. Jeremy should be out in the stars, man. I'm a big fan of Ober. Big fan.
Yeah, it's something that I definitely don't take lightly, getting to see him up here and play songs with him and jam with him and see him at jam nights and things like that. The guys, and the craziest thing about it, he's a real nice guy too. Not that you and I aren't nice guys, but
no, it's way down to earth. He's quiet, kind of. He's not like a he sit there, he'll look at you. He's a thinker.
Yeah.
Jeremy's a thinker. He's always got on his brain. Jeremy thinks on a creative level, and Jeremy thinks on a very analytical level. That's what probably makes Jeremy such a good musician and a good person. He's a very serious person.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, so let's talk about some gigs we got coming up. So you have a show coming up March 20th with Blacktop Mojo. That you said that was in Iowa City at what's it called?
Barbecue.
The Wildwood Barbecue.
So yeah, I guess a 500 seat venue, kind of like Woolies here in Des Moines. They kind of book some of the same bands I think Woolies does. Kind of nationals. Who was playing there? I mean, got Blacktop Mojo. I think it's all like I can't even think of some bands. But kind of bigger bands like. No one too huge, but no one too small. It's kind of a mid-sized venue.
Yeah.
So we're that, and of course we got my birthday bash with Three Finger Betty and my friends over in Blacktop World, and we're looking forward to that. That's going to be good.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully there's not a blizzard that night or anything weird, because that my birthday can bring some bad weather sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the winter birthday for you. I got the summer birthday, so you never know if it's going to be hot or hot.
100 degrees or 107 degrees.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, those 2 shows are going to be really awesome. I'm stoked to play another show with you. I think one of the last times we did, was it your last birthday bash? You came up and played a couple songs with Three Finger Betty?
And what else did we do?
We did Cold Gin, and then we did
Cold Gin song.
Yes. So yeah, I mean that was tons of fun. I mean that was the first time I think I've ever got to play with you, so that was, something fun off the bucket list.
Had 3 cars on stage that night. That was awesome.
Oh yeah, it was tons of fun. I mean, like, I really the older I get, the more I enjoy playing with other people, because it's kind of like I look at music as a thing where you're like expressing yourself and you're kind of speaking a language with someone else, and other people can enjoy it even though they might not be able to speak that language.
Right, tribes. We're kind of like we're different tribes coming together like under one big nation. Just the Resurrection Mary tribe, the Three Finger Betty tribe. We're all coming together, playing.
I love it, dude. I love it. That's a good analogy. So yeah, the birthday bash show is February 19th. I got that right. Yes, I got that right. And then March 20th was your show in Iowa City.
You're older.
What was that?
It's my birthday at midnight, so I'll be turning old at midnight.
Turning old at midnight. You're gonna turn into a pumpkin. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, what's that?
So roll me off to the stage. I'm a big pumpkin.
Oh man,
I'll be that jack-o'-lantern.
I did pull up that show in Iowa City. That's available if you guys want to check that out online. Otherwise, the birthday bash show is February 19th. That's going to be a killer show. It's going to be good to see Blacked Out World again. I don't think I've seen them in maybe since COVID, or maybe once since COVID started. Maybe.
Here's the thing about Blacked Out World. Their old bass player, Josh, has returned to the band. Josh Finch is his name, and Josh was in 10, 12 years ago. Josh to come out of retirement, and I'm letting Josh borrow my Rickenbacker 4003 that night. He's going to play that on stage.
Oh, cool! That'll be fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's going to be a killer show.
That's it's going to be a good show. They're really excited because this is Josh's first show back. Like I said, 10 years or something. So.
Oh, that's cool. That's super cool. Oh man. So
I know that it's been a long time.
Do you?
So he's.
I'm gonna look this up real quick. Do you have a Resurrection Mary Facebook? There it is. Boom. So there is a Facebook account. Do you have like an Instagram or anything like that?
I don't. I need to get hip. I don't do Instagram. I need to kind of get with it. Maybe I'll let my guitar player handle that.
Yeah, it's a good way to do it. I'll put some links down below for the Facebook at least, so people can see what you're up to. Yeah, let's see what else we got here. That's pretty much. Do you have a YouTube channel for Resurrection Mary or no?
I do not.
All right.
That's probably stuff I need to work on. I probably need to get more interactive media for this band. It's probably some things we need to do. I don't have a Bandcamp account. I have what's it called?
Reverb Nation. Yep.
Or I don't know. We still get a lot of hits on there, but I think it's probably time that we maybe abandon that, or not abandon it altogether. But I think we need to set up like a Bandcamp account. I think that's probably more don't you think that's probably what more of the professionals are looking at? Or
yeah, Bandcamp is just easier to you can post things for sale on there and show them, your discography a little bit easier. You can search for things by locality, so you can look up like Des Moines rock bands, and it'll pull them up and things like that. So, I used to get really deep into Bandcamp for a while when I was dinking around with the Three Finger Betty one, but I don't know. I like Bandcamp. Having a Facebook is pretty much the one to have. Instagram's not bad, but Twitter, it's kind of pointless to have a Twitter at this point. So
yeah, Instagram. I should probably set something up on there. I just when I think of Instagram, I just go. I just dread Instagram.
Yeah. Just one more thing. It's just one more thing that you got to do.
Girls erasing 40 pounds off them, and it's I want likes. Am I pretty? Instagram.
Yeah. I will have to say it's not like that like entirely, because on my Audible Farm Instagram, all I follow is bands, so I don't get to see any of that. I'm kind of like, yeah, cool.
This is Chrissy from Australia,
Oh, it's hilarious. So if you guys want to check out any of the links for Resurrection Mary, they're going to be in the description section down below. There's a Facebook there. It has links to their Facebook, and you can see their shows coming up, including that Blacktop Mojo show, which should be pretty awesome. The venue is awesome. There's a lot of interest in that, it looks like, already in the comments section on some of those posts. But yeah, check that out. That's going to be a great place to check out all of the Resurrection Mary stuff. I'll put the Boggs Hull Avenue Facebook down there as well. So if you guys want to check out what else is happening at Boggs Hull Avenue Tavern, that's going to be down there as well. I got everything on my checklist checked off here. Is there anything that you want to talk about before we take off today?
No, I really can't think of much. I think we've kind of covered a lot of things. So just trying to encourage people to, it's up to the fans to help keep the music scene alive too. I mean, us bands, we can only do so much. We're out there, we're unloading our gear in sub-zero temperature. We're walking through ice and snow, and we need the fans to help come out and support these things, because without the fans, this is all going to go away. And that's me talking as a venue owner and as someone who's in a band. So we just definitely, I think in 2022, I think people really need to get out and support the arts.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. I couldn't agree more.
Going to go away.
Yeah, that's very true. That's true. Jason, don't go away, but thank you very much for joining me on the podcast. I appreciate it.
It was my honor. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. And there's another episode in the bank. Love it. Love it. This was a fun one. Like I said in the intro, Jason's one of my favorite people to talk to at shows. He knows a lot about gear. He knows a lot about playing shows, promotion, other bands, things that go on. I've seen him not just at his own bar, but I've seen him at other people's bars taking in shows as well. That's one of my favorite things about him. He's out there in the scene. He's watching shows everywhere, and one of the nicer guys out there too. I remember the first time I met him, I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's gonna yell at me. He looks so scary. No, he's a nice guy, super nice guy, and that's one of my objectives with these podcasts. Just kind of get to know the people in the area, who's out there, who's playing shows, where are the venues at, what it's like to promote. The kind of styles of music and everything, and Jason knows a lot about a lot of those things. So whatever he said in here, don't take it lightly. I kind of like the idea of just going out and starting to do the flyers again. It'd be awesome to flyer shows, just go to different venues and things like that and just plaster them with flyers. But, I also understand why some people are reluctant to do those things. It takes time, energy, and money to do those things, and we talked about that in this episode too. It just kind of depends what you want to get out of music. But I mean, he knows all sorts of different types of music, all the different bands that come through, all the different styles. The blues jam that's on Sundays there, like I said, I've taken in a couple of those. I haven't gotten up on stage and played at one of those, but I've been to a few of those. And I love going to those types of things. So if you guys are into jamming and you're in the Des Moines area, that's a good place to go doing some jamming. Meet some new people, find some new buddies in the music scene, and it's kind of crazy because there's not a whole lot of crossover between like the bands I see and play with at shows in Des Moines and the jams down there. So that just lets me know there's a pile of musicians down there. There's so many musicians down there. There's no way, if you gave me 20 years, I couldn't talk to all the people that have been involved in the music scene in one way or another. There's just so many, and everybody's so talented. And that's one of the things I think is cool about Jason is he's seen a lot of that. So hats off to you, Jason. If you're looking for the Resurrection Mary links, they're down below. Like I said, he's got a couple cool shows coming up with them, so check those out down below. Check out their Facebook. Otherwise, if you're looking for what's going on at Boggs, go down to the Facebook down below. He posts a lot of stuff almost on a daily basis on their Facebook page there, whether or not they have drink specials coming up or shows coming up, or like I said, that open jam. They've done a lot of crazy things down there, and they're pretty much open to a lot of different types of shows. So check it out if you guys are in an original band, you want to go explore somewhere and play somewhere else. Put your name in the Des Moines scene. It's a nice place to start. Like I said, I think my second show in Des Moines ever was down there. And so hats off to him for having such a fun venue, a nice place to go kind of relax and have fun with friends. And it's always a blast going down there hanging out. So thanks for joining me, Jason. I really appreciate it. Check out his links down below. And down below his links, there's Audible Farm links for the Audible Farm shop, links for the Audible Farm Patreon channel, and links for the Audible Farm website. The website has like all the links and everything you can probably ever want from Audible Farm and more. But the shop has t-shirts as well as maybe some stickers. I'm not sure if I still have the keychains on there listed or not, but I do also have some Audible Farm keychains. They might be on the shop. Check it out. Click that shop link. Somebody tell me if there's keychains in there or not. Otherwise, the Audible Farm Patreon video versions of the podcast are available. $1 a month is all it will cost you. So sign up, check them out, watch the video versions if you'd like. Otherwise, it's always going to be free for audio versions. So thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate it. And once again, check out Jason's links down below. I'm done for the week. I'm out of here. Peace.